of our Kotlin masterclass. Yeah.
I can remember talking about val and var, the variables and the
Yeah, that's true. We talked about var and val. Who else?
yeah. I can remember talking about val and var, the variables and the
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I forgot that I was live on YouTube. So yeah. Anyway, today we shall be tackling a very, very interesting topic, by the way. And today we are going to be looking at something called control flow. I think I don't know if I can go back to my previous module. Let me see if I can go back to my previous. Yeah, you see, we were using some if statements somewhere. So that's what we're going to be looking at today, the control flow. And yeah, it's a very, very interesting topic, especially in Kotlin. So I'm hoping that you all are going to are going to enjoy this. Yep. Um, so first of all, maybe who can help me define what is a control flow in programming, not just in Kotlin? Someone who can help me define what is a control flow? Jamani, hakuna mtu anataka kujaribu? Okay, sure. Maybe I can help you define that. So basically, a control flow is like statements that allow your program to make decisions and repeat actions. Yeah, so they are like they give you the conditional element of your application. Oh, sorry, John Mwendwa. I didn't see your hand.
I wanted to answer the question.
Yeah, you can still answer. You can still answer. You can still give us your opinion.
Oh, it's basically like the order in which your code will run.
Okay. I don't know whether to call it the order. So okay, maybe not quite so, but I think all you need to understand about a control flow is like they are statements that allow your program to make decisions. So based on particular conditions. Yeah. So that's what we're going to be looking at: how you can make a program make a decision based on the input, or maybe based on a particular condition that has been given in this case. And common conditional statements zinakwanga the if else statements. So maybe if you have done basic programming, you can understand what I'm saying. The if and else statements. So these allow you to make decisions based on it. They are like based on Boolean conditions or so. Yeah, they allow you to make decisions based on Boolean conditions. And maybe I'm going to have this. I don't know if I can have this as a markdown. Yeah, maybe I can have this as a markdown, and I can say these are going to be conditional statements. Conditional statements. This is one part of our control flow, and one of the conditional statements that we're going to be looking at today is the if and else keywords in this case, and we're going to see how we can use these keywords in Kotlin to make particular decisions uh, based on particular conditions. Yeah. So I think I'm just going to add another markdown here. Just a minute. I'm going to add another markdown here, and I'm going to say if else. So this is the first thing we're going to be looking at. So if else, if and else, they are like the conditional statements that execute different different blocks of code based on boolean conditions. So let's say you have like a val age, and can say maybe a user age is equals to 18 years. So you can have a simple if else statement that checks for maybe one condition. Like for example, you can have a condition that prints you are an adult if the user is 18 years and above. Else, you are going to print you are a minor. So that's one example of a very simple if-else statement. So maybe I can just put that into practice and we can discuss it as we move on. So we can have maybe a simple if-else here, which checks for one condition only. Checks for one condition. So maybe you can say if Oh, fun main, and then here we can actually maybe say we have val age, which is equals to maybe 18. So we know that 18 is the adult age in most places. Um, After that, we want to have a check. We want to have a boolean check here. So a boolean check that will check if this user is 18 years or above, then we are going to print that this user is an adult. But in a case where we have having maybe 17 years and below, we all know that this person is going to be a minor. Now, okay, you can try to already imagine that, but then how can we put it into practice using real code? So you can just use a simple else statement here. So you're just going to utilize this if and else, nothing else. So we are going to say here, if age, this age that we have here, remember, that we defined there, if age is less than or equals to is greater than or equals to 18. So if this person is greater than, if this person's age are 18 years and above, that is what we are checking here, if you can relate with this. Then we want to come here and print you are an adult. Else, okay, let's try to execute this first. So we are going to call main here, and then we are going to execute this here. So this might take a few seconds for the first time. So just going to be patient with this. Yeah, so you can see we just checked if age is greater than or equal to 18. Then we are going to print you are an adult. Now, assuming this person is not 18 years, maybe I was 16 years. So you see hapa we are not getting any print, you're not printing anything, tunaacha ikiwa like just empty. So we also want to have a check that will maybe check if this user is less than 18 years, what are we going to print? Maybe you're going to print you are a minor. So this is usually essential where you need to ensure that the user gets full feedback, because kama sahi when the age is 16 you're not getting any feedback here, it's just going to be empty. But we want to ensure that we are able to complete this cycle and get like full response or like full feedback based on all conditions. We don't want to keep missing one condition. So that's why you're going to use the else block here and say else print you are a minor. So oh, by the way, for those who don't know, this is the Kotlin masterclass, and for the first few sessions, we are for the first few modules, we are trying to consider the total beginners. So we are still evolving, we are still learning. Yeah, so you as we progress, things we get more complex, we're going to do more complex stuff. Yeah, yeah, it's going to be cool stuff. So if we can now try to execute this, you can now see our code says our program returns your Ramayana. It prints your Ramayana after we have the age as 16 here. So that's the most basic implementation of a if else statement. You just have a condition. You just have you just execute a block code based on the condition. So, for example, here for us to print that you are an adult, the condition is that the age must or equal to 18. So this is the condition we have here, that the age must be greater than or equal to 18. And then we are going, if that is true, we are going to be executing this and printing this here. Else, we are going to print this one out. So that's why we are saying that basically the if else and else if statements execute different blocks of code based on Boolean conditions. So these are what we call Boolean conditions. Yeah. So that's the most basic implementation part that you need to understand about the simple conditional statements that we have in Kotlin. I don't know whether anyone has a question. Okay, Dina.
Okay, my question is uh, there hapo kwa function main, like ni the
Uh,
where the execution starts ama like juu naona kuna like I was to ask but naona kuna function main na kuna the other main hapa chini, so like I'm confused like gani ni gani, like which is which, ziko na function gani?
uh, 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 this one we have. Okay, I think no, I think I'm getting your point. We have, you see, let me just comment this one out. You see, we have this function main here that you have defined, alafu iko na this blah 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 shenanigans. But then if we try to execute this code as it is, you see, we cannot get any output. That is because we have defined a function, but we have not yet utilized that function. Like we have not called that function. So that's why after defining the function main and its the whole implementation of the function main, we also need to come here and ensure that it is executed. So we have to come here and call our function so that this function can be executed. So this is just a function. We're just calling this function, but this one is just the function the definition of our function and the implementation of the code block that we have here. So I don't know. Have I answered your question?
Okay, so like it's like whatever you want whatever program you want it to run, you first write it in the function main, then you call the main function.
See, okay, not a must it be function main, can be maybe a function like function user, and you can call user here. So, by the way, I want you guys to understand the only reason we use function main is because it's like the core, or do you call it the most basic function you can have, a function main. So that's why you're just using function main, but it's not limited. You can define your function as you wish based on what your function does. So even this one you can call it maybe function boolean check. Boolean check. There's no like you won't be crucified for doing that.
Nimepata, nimeget.
Okay. Um so that was a nice question. Please have clarified something about that. Now, assuming now we want to have multiple conditions. For example, if you look at our case right now, we have the val age, we have defined the whatever, and then we have had one check, one condition, and that condition is that if the user is above 18 years, is equals to or above 18 years, then that person is an adult. Else, that person is a minor. So we have just checked for one condition. But now, assuming we want to have like a condition where we want that in case the user is below 10 years, we are going to say that person is a child. And then maybe in case the user is above 50 years, we want to say that that person is maybe how do you call them? An old person. I don't know the real name. Yeah, a senior citizen. If you're above 50 years, you're a senior citizen. If you're below 10 years, you're a child. If you are 12 to 19, you are a teenager. So, you can have multiple conditions. For us, right now, we are just having a single condition, which is just checking whether the user is above 18 years. That's all. So that's our next course. Maybe you can look at how can we really manage multiple conditions with else if. So right now we have just utilized the if and else, but we have the else if for multiple conditions. So I think I'll jump right into that, and then we can check a few examples and how they work, or one example. I'm sure it's going to be enough. Okay. Uh, so we can multiple multiple oh my god, or multiple conditions with else if. So here we can say have a function main. Now we want to, like, let's say we want to have like a simple grading system that checks for the score of a student. And for this score, we can say in case the score is greater than or equal to 90%, then that person has scored an A. Then otherwise, if the score is greater than or equal to 80, that is a B. Again, if the score is greater than or equal to 70, that is a C. Else, if the grade does not fall in any of those categories, then you're going to say that by default, this person has an F. That is an example of a very simple and easy to understand multiple conditions. So remember, we are starting from the basics. We don't want to do the complex algorithms right now. We want to understand the basics first. So how can we implement this in Kotlin? So I'm just going to show you real quick. We can define our variable here for score 75 and assign it as 75, and then we can say that we want to check the condition in order of top to bottom, like from the 90s to up to the zeros. So we can say checks conditions in order from top to bottom. Guys, I just remembered we did not tackle the operators. Oh my god, I don't know why I forgot. I think that's the first thing we could have done today, but okay. We shall look into that. I think I'll note that. Next time, that's the first thing we're going to do. Operators should be in module 2, actually, not module 3 or module 4. So we're going to look into that. I'm sorry, I just remembered that. So checks conditions in order from top to bottom. So if a user has scored 90%, we can say that this person has an A. So we can just start with a very simple if condition that says if score is greater than or equal to 90, then we can do what? We can come here and print. You can come here and print that grade is equal to A. So that is in case a person has 90 and above. That is why you have the greater than or equal to. Now, what if this person does not have that? What about the person who have scored 80 and we want to check for the B? In this case, we can just say else if score is less than or equal to 80, we can print grade B. Now again, we can also have a grade C that will be 70% and above. That is 70 up to 79, and then 80 to 89, and then 90 to up to. And so we can just come here and say else if score is equals to 70 again, we want to print grade C. And then we can say else in case the marks do not lie in the categories of the 90s, 80s, or 70s, then this person by default has an F. So you can come here and say, actually, not else if, it's going to be else. Print the grade is just an F. And then we can come here and do our main. And as you can see, we have a grade C. That is because we have 75% here as our score, and the 75% lies in the score of between 70 and 79. Iko hapo katikati. That's why you have our 75 in this case, and that's why we are getting a C. So maybe I can just add a comment here. This executes because score is 75. So this is where our execution happens in this case. This is what we're going to be printing in this case. But if you can even change this to something like 91, you see our execution will happen in this case. So if you do that, you see we have a grade A here. Very simple actually. These are among the very simple building blocks of Kotlin programming. Understanding these fundamentals will really take you a lot. Take you far, that is. So I don't know whether that is clear, or someone can, if you have a question, you can raise your hand or unmute. Yeah, this is an open session. Eric.
Okay, so maybe I can try and explain something. Maybe you can keep your screen the way it was.
Okay, yeah.
So when you're talking about control flow, you know, when you're running code, the compiler usually runs code line to line from top to bottom. But you have these elements to control the flow of how your code is executed. So now initially your code will be run every single line one at a time from top to bottom. But if you use control flow elements, like now the if statement, you can now decide that this line can be skipped based on a certain condition, or you can say this line can be run based on a certain condition. So control flow just helps you to manipulate how your code is being run. So not everything will be executed. I don't know if I made that easy.
Yeah, I think that's quite simple. I think actually you've summarized all my explanations in one statement. So yeah, that's true. Yeah, so like just the way you said, if in case we have a 91 here, that means that our code will not be executing from here to here. It's just going to check for the condition, the Boolean condition, and that condition is if it's 91, that means that our execution point should happen at this point. So that means that we are not going to be doing the rest of this work. It's just going to be doing up to here, and then we're going to be printing our grade. So I guess that's actually a more simpler definition, or a more simpler way to make people understand what a control flow is in this case. So yep. I don't know, anyone with a question or something to add on. Okay, these are some of the simple things that you shouldn't ignore, especially when you're starting out your journey in any programming language. Understanding this helps you maybe understand how to actually make decisions, or how to actually perform operations on your code and stuff. So yep. Now, I want us to look at another interesting topic, where we can use our if statement as an expression. So if as an expression means that in this case, like our statements can have a return value. So if you check this code, if you check at this code that we have here initially, we don't have any return value at all. So what this code does is that it just performs a Boolean check. In case that is 91, in case of this like 91, we know that it lies here. So it's just going to print out what is there. but we don't have return value at all. We are just printing out, we are just executing this, but we yet don't have any return value in this case. So now I want us to look under which case, how can we actually use as an expression so that we can actually make them return something, return value. So about using if statements as an expression is that it makes your code more functional. You now start being functional point of view, like functional perspective. And to simple that English and stuff, I can just have a markdown here. Just come here and delete this quick, add a markdown, then say if as an expression. So in Kotlin, you need to understand that, okay, in Kotlin, in KT, you need to understand that if can return something, can return a value, Unlike, okay, some other languages, like Java, in Kotlin, you can use an if statement you can use if as an expression to return a value. So this helps make code more functional. So how can you do all this? So let's have our function main here, and then we can have like, let's have like two values here. Like we can have value A, which are going to assign it 10, and then you can have value B, and then you're going to assign it 20. So we want to, in this case, we want to have a condition that checks in case A is greater than B, we return A, else we return B in this case. Like a very simple one. Let me show you how you can do that. So we can say if returns the value from the branch that executes. So like, for example, we can now have another value called valmax, and in this case we can come here and say that max is equals to, our value max is equals to, first of all we check in case A is greater than B, then max is equals to 10. But in case A is not greater than B, then this this max is going to be assigned the value 20 in this case. So we can just come and say if A is greater than B, we are going to say max is equals to A, else max is going to be B. So in this case, we could have just come here and assigned our max as A in this case. But remember, we want to check kama kubwa kuliko B, then tutaiassign hiyo value ya A. But in case max is actually less than the A is less than B, then our max is going to be B in this case. So that's why we have come here and said if A is less than B, then we can say A, else it's going to be B in this case. So this is just a very simple Boolean check. The only thing that we have done here is that we have used it as an expression so that we can actually have a return value. So unaona hapa hivi tumefanya tu the simple Boolean check that we were doing here, where if is greater than or equal to 18, then that person is an adult. But in case age is less than, but else if that condition is not met, we are going to just say that that person is a minor. So in case that condition is not met, you're going to be executing this. That's the same thing. That's the same logic you're using here, that in case A is greater than B, then this value of the value of max, you're going to assign it as A. But in case that is not true, we are going to assign it B. So otherwise it's going to be B. So, and then we can come here and say print, we can print out our max in this case. Maybe we can have our main there. So the advantage of having if as an expression in this case is one very basic reason, is because when you're defining values and variables, you might want to limit how you like for example, you can take an example as let's say you're building a Jetpack Compose UI, and you're using something like Compose multi-platform, or maybe you're trying to check for something like screen width or screen dimensions. You can have a boolean that checks that in case that this screen is equals to maybe of this size, we are going to assign it a particular width. But in case this screen is of a smaller size, we're going to assign it this particular size. So that allows you to actually make your functions more expressive, and you can be able to pass more logic into your variables and values. Yeah. So as you can see here, we just defined A as 10, B as 20, and then we checked if A is greater than B, then our max is equals to be B. And then in case that is not met, then we are just going to leave it as B, and then we just print it out here. And since A is not greater than B, we have decided to the function decided to return B here in this case, and that's why we have printed 20. But if in case we can actually swipe this and have 20 here and have 10 here and execute this, if A is greater than B, doesn't make sense. So if A is greater than B, so that means that it's still going to be true, else you're going to print out B. Am I confusing myself or something? If A is greater than B, we are going to have it as A. Yeah, that's true. Else it's going to be B. So maybe we can have this as 3 and see what we print out. Yeah, you see that's what I'm trying to say. In case A is greater than B, we are going to have it as A. But in case that is not met, we are going to have it as B, because here B is greater than A, which is not what we were checking for here. And that is why we're going to print out our 10 here in this case. So that's a very, very basic explanation of how you can use if as an expression to make it return a value in this case, not just use it for printing out and execution points. You can make it return something like, in our case, how we have done it here. So from that basic perspective, I don't know who can maybe who has a question, or who maybe has something to add on to that. Yep. I said this is a learning session. If you feel that you have a simpler definition or a simpler explanation, you can always feel free to unmute yourself and say something. Or you can raise your hand in case you have a query or you have a question. Okay. Now, still under if, I want us to look at something else. You see, hapa tumekuwa na tumeangalia the single condition, and then you have looked at the multiple condition. Then here we have done the if as an expression. But now I want us to look of the same way to gonna if as an expression. I want us to look at how we can use the multi-line if expression. So I'm just going to write a markdown here. Then I'm going to explain what I mean by that multi-line if expression. Is this correct? Yep. Now let's say we have a value that is temperature, and then let's say we have something like temperature, yes, and then we want to check for a condition where if the temperature is greater than 30, we can return hot. But in case the temperature is greater than 20, we are going to return warm. Else we are going to print cold. We are going to return cold in this case. So I don't want you guys to confuse that logic with with this what we had here. I know it might sound similar, but it's quite different. So I'm going to implement this, and then I can try to show you the difference between the two. So I'm just going to implement this, and then I'm going to explain the difference between that and what we had earlier on. So here we can have val temperature, and then can be equals to 25, and then we can have maybe val weather, the same way we did here. We can have weather, and then you can say if temperature is greater than 30, we are going to print line checking temperature, and then here we can maybe return hot, and then you can say else if temperature is less than 20, we are going to the same thing as this, and then we are going to return hot, and then we're going to have an else block where we're going to have the same, and then we're going to return cold, and then here we can print weather, and then we can call it here. Okay, this is quite simple, by the way. Now I want you guys to look at this piece of code here that we have here. We have defined a function main, and then we have temperature here, which is we have assigned 25, and then we have another value here, and then in this value we want to assign this value based on particular conditions. So first of all, we check if the temperature is greater than 30. If that is greater than 30, then we have hot here. Else if greater than 20, it's supposed to be warm. We have warm here, and then else we are going to have cold. So if you look at this, and then you look at this, what we had here earlier on, I want someone to explain the difference between this and this. So okay, mwenye ata explain difference ya hii na hii, namwekea airtime, nimpestie kitu. So I just want to see whether you guys are like understanding what you're trying to say here. So here we have if as an expression which has a return value, and then we just have our basic conditional if statements, if else statements. No, I want someone to tell me what's the difference between this and this here. Yeah, so maybe someone can answer that. John.
So in the second one, our conditional statements are inside the variable, but in the first one, we already set our variable, and then later we started stating our conditional statements. The first one.
Okay. Yeah, that's I think can you come again? Maybe you I can want to hear your point again, but I guess you're correct, but you can come again.
So in our second part, our conditional statements are inside our variable.
Yeah.
But in the first part, we already set our variable. Then later, we started stating our conditional statements.
Yeah, I think that's true. You can paste me your number in the DM. Like we have the DM section. If you don't paste it in the chat, you can put it in the DM. So that's actually very true. If you look at this, okay, let me start from here. If you look at this, our conditional statements are not inside a variable in this case. So what we're doing here is that we are just having an if statement to check if the to check if the grade is greater than 90, we execute this. We just execute a print statement in this case. But if you can look at what you're doing here, our conditions are held inside this value that we have here, the weather value in this case. So they are not just they're not just like that. They're not just like they're not like that. We could have left it like that, but in this case, we decided that we are going to put all our code inside our weather so that we can be able to actually have a return value. In this case, the return value is the hot in this case. So if the temperature is greater than 30, we are going to return hot here. We are not just printing out. And that is why, if in case we can come here and remove this print statement and try to execute this. You see, we just have the checking for temperature here. We just have we can remove this too. This is not actually necessary. If we execute this, we don't get anything in this case because we are not printing out this, or we're not executing this. We are just returning a value like hot. But in this case, we need to call this value for it to be printed here down. But if you check at this, once the condition has been met, we are going to print it out at that point. We're not going to wait so that we can actually come here and print it out down there. So that's the most basic viewpoint of how we can differentiate between our basic if-else statement and our expressional if and multi-line if expressions or if statements. These ones have a return value which is hot, unless we have something like print here, print hot. But in this case, if you don't print hot, you're just going to return a value which is hot here, but you have to call it. So that's why you're going to encapsulate this inside a variable so that we can actually be able to call that value and execute our code and stuff and our conditions. Yep. So I don't know. Anyone with a question? Feel free. But I understand sometimes I think I'm that kind of a person when there's a complicate kitu. So that's why I keep asking whether there's a question, so that in case I have complicated it somewhere, I can always answer that, or I can have other people helping me answer the questions. Dina?
Actually, I've not understood like the difference. Like sijapata like the clear difference between multi-line and the other one.
Oh, so you understand between multi-line and the single line? Oh, that's so basic, by the way. Maybe I can just repeat that quick fast. The single conditional and the single condition statements, they just have one condition to check. Like if A is greater than B, one condition here, this one condition. So, but in our multi-line if expressions, we have multiple conditions: condition 1 and condition 2. So that's the most basic explanation. Condition 1, condition 2, and this one just has one condition. And in our multi-line, so that we can be able to handle multiple conditions, we have the else if. So if temperature is equal to that, return hot. Else if temperature is equal to that, return warm. You can even have more else if statements based on your use cases and based on your needs, or based on your application needs. So I don't know whether you're still confused or whether I've made it clear.
Like ulikuwa una explain the difference between hii ya mwisho and the first one for grading, ama like hiyo ya grading na hii ya mwisho ndo si ndo ulikuwa una explain?
Nilikuwa na explain the difference between umeuliza difference ya multi-line na hii. single condition,
Achana na hiyo sasa, hiyo ni ulikuwa na explain like sija get
oh,
the
like hii na hii ingine
eh,
hapa.
exactly yeah.
Aya, look at just look at this code. If you can look from if you can check this code from here, you can see that our execution starts from here. Like the code is executed as from here in this case. So no, because we have val score which you have assigned 91, and then after that we come to this next part where we check if score is greater than 90, and we execute that at this point. Like we print out the value at this exact point. But here ukiangalia hapa hivi, we don't have our execution does not start exactly from here. We want to hold our conditions inside a variable or inside this value, and then once we call this value here inside our print, this one the execution is going to start. So this value that we have here is holding all the conditions, so that means the execution of the condition starts with value here. That's when we are going to, if temperature is greater than 30, we are going to have a return value here. Not, there's a difference between printing something and so printing is just showing the output of maybe output of a particular computation at that particular point of computation. Like ikishafika hapa yagiwe na ikuwe correct, inakuwa kutoka hapa chini. But in this, a return value is held inside a variable like here until you come and call that variable here. So that's when it's going to be executed and printed out. I don't know whether that's a bit more clear ama nimekutupa zaidi.
Iko sawa. Actually sikuwa nimeona hii story na weather. So basically tunatry kusema ni eti if we want like call this print weather, like nothing will like hatutakuwa na return value.
Yeah, like unasema hapa hivi.
Like kama tutakuwa na like if we eliminate that print weather,
print out
that nini ita happen.
We already have the return values here. Don't this is not the return value. We're just calling this value defined here. Then the return values any weather, any value. We could have just opted to come here and say E equal hot, ikiwa hivyo. So now the return value of this is a string which is equals to hot, si ndio? But hatutaki to print here in basic terms, unaona haita return kitu because this property is never used, as you can see from the compiler. Unaona hivyo? From our code. It's never used. So that's why we are saying you have to print it out so that we can actually execute. You can actually show this return value that we have here. See return value here, you are just printing out the value that we get here. So this return value that we have here that you are holding variable.
Now, like, what's the essence of doing that?
I don't know, it's more sensible now.
Iko sensible, but what's the point? Mbona ufanye hivyo na you can do the other way around?
Because you might have like you might have like a condition. You might want to assign a value based on particular conditions. Like sasa kama hapa actually kuja tuseme hapa ni hot, mbona tuseme hapa ni hot, whereas we know that the temperature based on the value that we have. So that's why we are saying that you have to come here and check if temperature is greater than hot. Then like basically this helps to make your code more functional so that you can actually be able to like check for conditions or make your values check more conditions, and so that you can just be able to simplify the process of maybe like for example we can, like I gave an example nikasema, assuming we have a composable that is checking for, you have to check a width for the desktop and the mobile version. So you have inside this value where you're supposed to assign the width. Now is the, this one is the width. And you have to come and check that if it's the, kama the environment is desktop, then you're going to assign it maybe width of maybe like the is, if let's say something like, if the whatever, if the whatever is desktop, you are going to is equals to maybe desktop or whatever, you're going to assign it here like maybe like 24 or based on whatever. Then if it is maybe like mobile interface, you're going to assign it maybe something like 12 dp in this case. So inakusaidianga kucheck for particular conditions when you are assigning values to a variables and stuff and values. I think I'm going to say, let me send the Kotlin documentation for that, so that maybe you guys can actually research more about that. Have made it more complicated, so I'm just going to, let me send that right now. Kotlin.
It's okay, nimeelewa.
Yeah, but let me send it for those who may still be confused. So there's this one that I think nilikuwa nimeipin. Yeah, nimeipata. I had pinned it on my desktop, so maybe you guys can actually check out on that. It has a good explanation about whatever we have said about the multi-line if and if else statements. So Nato, I hope you're good.
Yes, I'm good.
Now I want us to look at something else. You know, here tulianza na nini? Um, just a minute. So we have looked at if, else if, and else statements. That is what we have in our conditional statements. Now I want us to look at something else known as the when expression. I think when is much unique to Kotlin. When is the switch statement for Kotlin. So in Kotlin we don't have we don't use the switch statement. We use the when expression. So just a minute. I need to put a markdown here. Oh, not a markdown. Let me delete that markdown. Just a minute. Just a minute. I need to pick a phone call. Just a minute. Okay. Um, we are back. So sorry for the small interruption. So we now have what we call the when expression. So when expression is the replacement for the switch statement. Like we have the statement in Java and in many other languages that we use, but in Kotlin, the when expression. So a when expression in Kotlin is used to like match a value or a condition against, let's say something like multiple possible branches. So we can have like multiple multiple against multiple branches. So like to put it in simple terms, I can just write it here. When oh, when expression is used to match a value or a condition against multiple multiple possible branches. So yeah, so this is actually like a much better way of doing things compared to using the long if else statements. So it's also used in control, like work the same way as the if and else if statements, but now it's more refined and much better, especially in a case where you might be wanting to you might be handling like let's say very very many checks, like a lot of checks to the if statement might be very tiresome and very tedious to work with, and so that's why you always have this option of using the when expression. And so I'm just going to have an example of a basic when so that you guys can actually understand uh, how this works before even continue with more discussions. So we can have like a basic when here, basic when statement. Fun, we are going to say like value is equals to is equal to come here day one, we print man the day is equal to day two, we print the day four. As we have learned, yes, we know the um, statements. It's using the if else statement. What if we can have a much simpler and a much more refined way of doing this without having to have all those else if statements in this case? So that's why we have the when express a value or a condition against multiple. So like for example, here we have our valid day is equals to 3. We are going to take the 3, use the when expression and match it against many possibilities. Like we can have day 1 is equals to Monday, day 2 is equals to Tuesday, day 3 is equals to Wednesday, day 4 is equals to that up to the last. So we can say here when day. So basically we just take our day as the value, and we match it against very many possibilities or very many possible branches. So it's going to be like an if else statement, but only now it's going to be more refined and much better, such that we don't have to have all those if else keywords. We can just do it in a much simpler way. So this is like our value, and then we're going to match it against multiple possible branches. So we can have like branch 1 here, and branch 1 can be 1. In case it's day 1, we are going to say that this is equals to this is equals to this is equals to Monday. So we are going to take this value and match it against multiple possibilities. Like in case the day is equals to day 1 here, we are going to say that this is equals to Monday. This is one possibility in this case. And then in case it's day 2, we are going to say it's Tuesday. In case it's day 3, Wednesday, day 4, Thursday, day 5, Friday, day 6, Saturday, Sunday. And then at the end of it all, we are going to have an else. So this else is going to check for any other input apart from 1 up to 7. So in case tuko na namba kama 8 hapa, how do we do with that number? We're just going to print here else invalid input. So if we can come here and execute this, you see we get our day as Wednesday. That is because this was our value that we are going to use it to match it against multiple possibilities or multiple conditions. So does one meet the does one meet our value? No. So it cannot be Monday. Does our condition 2 meet our value here? No. Does 3 meet our value here? 3? Yes. So this is where our execution point happens. Execution point. And that is where automatically our program is going to break from here. Like it's going to break here because you have already found what you have been looking for. Works the same way with our if else statement. We could have come here and said if day is equals to, maybe day is equals to 1, we can have it as, we can print it as Monday. Else if day is equals to 2, we can have it as Tuesday. Day is equals to 3, we can have it as Wednesday, and so on, etc. But using the when statement, especially when you're having very long checks, you can just have a single statement here when that takes in a value. And these are the expectations or the conditions that we're going to match this value against. And in case we are able to match it successfully, then you're going to print out that value. As simple as that. The when statement, it is the switch statement in Kotlin now. So from that most basic explanation or basic definition, let me also send the docs for the when statement, when expression in Kotlin. Yep. So, yep. Here it is. Oh my God, I lost the meeting tab. So, so the arrow like symbol act as equal symbol z. This is like it's like how to use to return. It's like a return. So in case we get it as 1, we want to return, we are going to print out this. It's like, okay, we can relate this as an keyword. It's like a return in this case, but you're just going to use an arrow and that arrow and the whatever. So we are just going to, when we get in case the day here we have gotten it as 3, then that means this is what you're going to be printing it out. It's like a return in this case, something of the sort. If yeah, it's not an equal symbol. Equal symbol is this. Equal symbol is that. Yep. That's why I really love when expressions, man. I just try to imagine if I could be writing all those if statements, man. So tiresome. Yeah, so it makes work easier when you are doing the conditional stuff. Yeah. Um. So I think you guys remember that we looked at if as an expression. Now we can also have when as an expression. I think actually this is going to be uh, this is going to be the last thing, that is the when as an expression and ranges. So this is going to be the last thing we are going to be doing today, so that I can publish all this and then I can take questions and then we can have our next session as from Thursday. So I'm going to finish on this because of time. And one more thing. So I want us to look at when as an expression. So we want to give this when a return value, not just printing out values in this case. You see, kama hapa, we are just printing out, when we get it as 3, we just execute. So this is like the execution point of our code. But what if you can have we can have all these when conditions inside a variable, so that we can be able to actually be able to return values to using this variable. In this case, the same way we did the if statements. Kama ulikuwa unasikiza, we talked about the if statements and how they work using expressions. That's the same logic we're going to be applying here. Nothing really big, just a small change. So I'm just going to add a markdown. Add a markdown and say when as an expression. So when as an expression, we're going to have function main as usual. Then actually, let me come back here. Someone asked that if, let me open the chat. So the arrow like symbol act as equal symbol armor. So no, it's not an equal symbol. Maybe I can repeat that. And also this arrow symbol that we see here, it's like a pointer to the action. So in case we get, actually let me not call it a return. If I call it a return, I might be contradicting myself and confusing some people. This here we got a 3, which is in this case inafika hapa. So when we get this value here, we want to point it out to the action, and the action is to print out the Wednesday in this case. So this is just like pointing it out to the action that is to be taken, and the action to be taken is to print out the Wednesday thing. Now when we have when as an expression, we can when can return a value, just like if so nakumbuka tulifanya the if stuff. So just like if even the when can have a return value. So if you remember how we were doing it here, we were let me take this simpler one. We were just having all the conditions inside this variable here. So the same way we are going to do it here. We are going to have a val result is equals to when, and then we're going to say maybe val number here is equals to 2. So when number, so val result is equals to when number. Now in case the number is 1, we want to return what? We want to return a 1 here. So I want you to note one thing. That's why nimekuja nikatoa hiyo point ya hii ni return. Actually it's not a return. This is just pointing it out to the action to be taken. So here, in case the number is 1, the action to be taken is returning. You're going to return a 1 here. So we are going to return a string which is 1. So unaona hapa hivi tumereturn e string hapa hivi which is 1. And then we can have, in case it's 2, we are going to return a 2 there. 2 there. In case it's 3, we are going to return a 3. And then so here we are going to be getting this error here, or this red line here, because we have to come here and exhaust this by adding an else. So you can have an else keyword here. This is going to be invalid input, and then we can come here and print out our results. So unaona vile tumefanya hapa hivi, hapa we are not returning anything, we are just performing an operation or an execution. Once we get it as 1, the execution to be performed is printing out Monday. But hapa hivi, once we get it as 1, we are not printing out anything, we are returning something, and that return is 1. So hatukuji kuprint, print hapa. Don't confuse it with printing. You're not printing 1, we are returning 1 here. We are returning 1 in this case. And that is why if we can remove this here and try to execute this, and try to execute this, hatuna any return value because hatuna any print statement here. That is because we are returning it here, and then it's inside this value result here. So we have to come here and call our results there. So yeah, like that's the most basic implementation of when as an expression. It has a return value. Yeah, we are not just executing it here, we are just storing that value inside here, and then after storing it here, kama for example hapa tumestore 2 kwa hii result, and then tunakuja hapa kwa tuna print hiyo result yenye tumestore hapa, na in this case our result is 2, so we are going to print out 2 here. Yep. Okay. So any question about when up to that point? Okay, if there's no question, I'm going to have like the last thing that I want us to check at, and that is when with ranges. So I want us to check on something called when with ranges. I'm going to write the whole program, and then I'm going to show you or explain to you what it does. It's a very small program, but carries a lot of weight. Some of these things that seem small might really help you out when you're building like an Android application, or yeah, you're working on a backend application or whatever application you're using in Kotlin. You realize that these are things you're going to apply later on. So right now they're just basics, but later on they're going to be the core algorithm you're going to be implementing. So if I can just have a markdown here, I can just say here we have when with ranges. When with ranges. So fun main, blah blah blah, val age. I think most of us should already be used to this. So after this, I'm going to give you guys some sort of assignments, or not assignments, but some tasks to do. I won't really teach you everything about when statements. That's why I'm going to give you some assignments for you guys to go and research, and maybe just do it on your own. Not like I'm going to check it, but it's up to you to decide whether you want to do it. If you want to learn, you can do it. Yeah, ni kujituma tu. So val age, and then we can so here we are going to have our when statement with ranges, and when it comes to ranges in Kotlin, we use the in keyword. So we have another keyword that I'm going to teach you. So in Kotlin, you have a lot of keywords, by the way, a lot of them, hundreds and hundreds. So we are going to use what we call the in keyword. So in is basically like, for example, we want to check a range of numbers. like maybe we have 10 numbers. We want to come here and say in 0 to maybe 5. In 0 to 5, do something. So use the in to represent the ranges in this case. So I'm going to do it real quick, and then I'm going to explain it to you guys. So we can have our edge here. So the in keyword checks if value falls within a range, or yeah, a range of values, to be more clear. So we can have like when age here, and then we can say in. So here you have age up to 25. So we want to come and check in case someone is 0 up to 12 years, that's a child. So why don't you just use the range to check from 0 up to 12? So we are going to say in 0 up to 12, we are going to say that that person is a child. And then 13 to 19, that is a teenager. 20 to 15, 59, that's an adult. 60 to 100, that's a senior. So you can just come here and say 0 to 12. So use the in and the two dots in between the values to indicate the range of values. Like the range here is equals to up is from 0 to 12. So mtu yote kutoka 0 mpaka 12 years, huyo ni a child. And then the next range will be 13 dot 19. 13 up to 19. So these two dots here, or two whatever, they represent the range. So in is like the grammar, like in value 0 up to 12. That's the range now we are looking at. So we can have print, we can direct it to print what? It's going to print child. Then in 13 to 19, we are going to print that that's a teenager, of course. And then in 20 to 59, that is adult. And then, or a youth, or but 15 is not a youth, so let's take an adult too. In 60 to 100, that is a senior citizen. And then we can have else, invalid input. And then yeah, we can just call the main here and execute this. So our age is 25. So where do we fall in which category? We are not here. Hii range haikubali. We are not in that range. We are not in this range. We are in this range. So in case our age falls anywhere in between here, in this case, we are not going to specify that it must be a particular value. It is going to be in between a range. In case age yetu iko kwa range fulani, then that means you are an adult. So this is about ranges, not like the precise value, not like it must be 25 for you to be an adult. You are in the range of 20 to 59 years for you to be an adult. So in case your age is in between here, hata ikikuwa 30, you will still be an adult because 30 is in between here. Hata ikikuwa 58, bado kwa hapa. Yeah. So that's the basic explanation of when with ranges. So yep, I think I've explained what I've wanted to explain today. So I'm going to take in more questions maybe, and then after that I'm going to tell you guys what you're going to do.
So umesema ako ka hyphen and that greater than, it is the same as equal. Unaweza weka huko equal sign up.
Come again. Sijaelewa kuswali yako, maybe ama sitasikia vizuri.
Unaona hapa penye unaandika when age and then unaweka integer 0 to 12 and then that ka hyphen and that is it greater than hiyo, then
Oh, see,
unaweka
greater than any arrow. It's like an arrow. It's just like we are basically easy greater than. Actually, greater than inakaa hivyo peke yake. This just like this one we use it to it's like directing the execution point. For example, in case age falls under this range, then this one will direct will direct the will direct our program to print this. So this is just like your basically directing. It's like you use the value to point to the action. Actually, let me say pointing the action. So in case age yetu iko hapa hivi, we want to, what do we want to do with that information? That's when we now come here and point it out to the action that is supposed to perform. And the action that we are pointing out to is to print adult. So this is just like pointing it to do something. You're pointing the program to do something after a particular condition has been met, or after a particular operation.
na ukiweza tumia ka hyphen peke yake instead of utumie that greater than, weke hyphen peke yake.
Huwezi weka hyphen peke yake. That is not compatible, or that is not in accordance with Kotlin programming syntax. You have to do it the way I've done it.
Sawa sawa.
So any question? Any questions? So I see some two questions. Does when so for the when statement, it does not only work with let's say like it doesn't only work with int peke yake. You can use it for other data types in this case. Let me look for some docs and send you guys, then give you some assignments. Oh, I've also seen another question. Just a minute. I get back to that browser. Uh, So, is it only fixed declared variables can be used in Kotlin? No. Actually, in our next module, we are going to be looking in how we can actually read user input from our terminal. So right now we were just covering some very basic things about Kotlin. Actually, does when in, not when alone? I think I misread your question. So when in, does it work with other data types or just int? No, it works with many data types. So it does not only work with like integer alone. Or maybe I can show you an example. So let's have a random example here. We can have a function main, and here you can say val grade is equals to b. So this is going to be a character. Then we can have when grade in. So you can come here and say maybe in is it really correct? When in a to see we are going to print ln, then we can say past. We can duplicate this once, and then you can say for d to f, you can have it as failed, and then you can have an else invalid input, and then you can call main here. So what you should understand is that when in does not only work with integers alone. You can always you can work with other data types like character, string. It's actually based on what you need, or what you can or what you want. Also, I was looking for some docs. Let me finish. Let me send you some docs. Kotlin.lang. Kotlin programming language. So I'm getting some W3 schools docs for you guys. Okay, it is. So W3 schools so far we have the Kotlin or the Kotlin lang dot org, but some has some pretty messed up documentations that are really shallow. So I always prefer using the W3 schools docs for learning the basics and stuff. Oh, so question from YouTube: Can we say assign? Can we say assign? Okay, maybe Eric can help me answer that. Maybe because maybe I don't understand the question. Maybe he can help me answer or clarify the question.
Okay, hata mimi sijaelewa, nimepaste tu. Maybe if he's on YouTube he can explain, nitatuma baadaye.
Okay. Maybe you can tell him to because it's on YouTube. You can tell him to leave a comment, and then after that, I'm gonna get back to that question. Maybe he can leave the question in a much clear format, because when the question says can we say assign, I don't really understand that. So maybe anaweza uliza the whole question based on vile anaiona, and then we can respond to that on the comment section. So, anyways, today, man, I have a meeting right now. That's why we could have gone up to 10 something, but right now, someone is waiting for me somewhere. So maybe if, we can call it a night, and next time we're going to discuss more. Maybe we're going to hear more from Eric, maybe. So yeah, in case you have a question, always feel free to ask in the group. For those who are not in the group, maybe Eric anaweza paste link hapa, ama acha ni paste jama, niko nayo hapa. Acha nione. Okay. Oh yeah, so let me paste the link here. So if you're not in the group, you can use that link to join, and then you can always rewatch the session on YouTube. And on the YouTube part, on the comment section, always leave your questions, because I know I might have had, you might have a lot of unanswered questions. So you can always drop them on the comment section if you're not going to ask them here. Yep, maybe I can ask Eric to close the session for us.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. So it has been a great session. I hope umesoma more, you've understood. If you have any other question, you can ask in the group. So acha ni share the link to YouTube here. Yeah, so see you on Thursday. Thursday I'll be taking you through the remaining part and the other module if upon a time. Yeah. Thank you for joining.
Have a nice time, guys. We shall meet, Cinder. Yeah, and thanks for joining in.